And welcome back to centralcoastradio.com. We've got a very, very special guest on the phone right now. There is an amazing new film coming out on both DVD and video on demand on June 21st. It's a brand new Aussie slasher called Bad Girl Boogey. And we thought we would actually get the director of the this brilliant new film on the phone right now. So welcome to the program, Maio Mackey.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So, Alice, tell us a little bit about this film. Where did the idea for Bad Girl Boogey come from?
So I just made my first feature film, So Bam. I was 16, and then, I was looking for my next project to do, and I know I wanted to do a different subgenre. That first film I did was vampires. So I was originally going to do this film as a short, but then I was like, no, I want this to be my second feature. So it's just kind of aesthetically very punk and kind of inspired by films like The Ranger and Rob Zombie and Gregor Arki's work, and I just kind of knew I wanted to create a Aussie slasher that's kind of focused on the characters and a lot of queer community and queer themes and stuff like that. But of course with the horror spin just coming from a different perspective and more into my world, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things I loved about this film was that it's not just another slasher film. There are themes in there that are important themes for cinema, but there's also a very natural feel to this film as well. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you went about putting those themes and also that natural feel into this film.
For sure, thank you. I don't know, I think just when I go about writing horror films, the horror that I like is typically very character driven and focused on the emotions, and especially when I'm writing horror, the stuff I grew up on, Craft Legacy and Black Christmas. It's still a horror film, but it also has those themes and underlying messages to also resonate with marginalized communities, which is really important to me, and seeing myself represented. So I guess I just put a lot of what I want to see in a film into the work, and I'm glad that it reflected in a naturalistic way.
See, when did you fall in love with horror? Was there a time in your early life when you first was exposed to horror? Was there a film that made you fall in love with horror?
I think I grew up on Scooby-Doo and the Monsters, which is a great intro to horror, but I feel when the Scream TV show came out was when I was oh, this is my life. I'm obsessed with horror. That first episode of Bella Thorne was very when I think it came out when I was 11, and then from then on I just became obsessed with slashers and obviously the Scream films, and I've always been a Buffy fan, so I think both Buffy and Scream I would say for sure.
They are a television show and a film that I love as well. Did you always want to be a filmmaker? Was it watching things like Buffy and Scream that made you want to be a filmmaker? And you mentioned that you made your first feature film at 16. Tell us a little bit about that journey as a 16-year-old making a feature film.
Yeah, for sure. I always wanted to be a storyteller, short stories and stuff like that when I was younger. But eventually, I just kind of developed into wanting to be a filmmaker, and film became my life. But yeah, so I made So Bam when I was 16, and then Shudder picked it up, which is such an incredible experience. It was no budget film, and most of my work, this one, I started writing probably straight after So Bam with my co-writer Ben Robinson, so I would have been 16 as well, and we shot the film when I was 17, over 6-8 days. Yeah, it was just I don't know, I've always been involved in the film community. And then I just did some shorts and kind of worked my way up to So Bam. And then having that under my belt, I had more experience and more knowledge and more connections. So yeah, that's just how I made Bad Girl Boogey.
You mentioned that Bad Girl Boogey almost ended up being a short film. Tell us a little bit about that writing process, especially when you made the decision to make it a feature film. Was it a difficult screenplay to write?
I don't know about difficult. It's just I was looking for something to do film-wise after So Bam, and I was well, shorts aren't actually easier to make. Hence, it costs a similar amount of money and still all the effort and stuff. But yeah, so in the film, there's a scene in the car with the gay couple, and that actually would have started the short film. which I think is like now like 30 minutes into the film. So I think just like I wanted to focus more on the characters and like the history of the mask and stuff, which I was able to do in a feature. And yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the shoot itself as well. Like you said that this film was made with a very, very little budget. How did you go about the shoot, and how did you make it look like it had a budget? Because you can't tell watching this film that it didn't have a budget.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, like my amazing DOP and crew are in Japan, and Astra, the camera assistant, are just like amazing. They understand like my visual references, and I've worked with them a bunch now, and they shoot like stuff, like really big productions as well. So I was just really lucky to have them on board, who understood like the film and what I wanted to make, who elevated every production I ever do, and I'm so grateful for them. And also like Adele, who did our like makeup. Like, it's not like a lot of gore throughout the film, but like when it hits, like I feel like there's a fair bit of like blood and, you know, some intense kills. But she like did Raka Talk to Me and like heaps of other cool shit. So yeah, I was just really lucky to have such a great team involved who was able to like dedicate their time and help me elevate the script into something that hopefully looks like it had more of a budget than like the $0 and like 1 week of shooting that we crammed into.
Doing it in 1 week, did that make it difficult, or did that make it a lot easier because it was kind of wham bam straight into it?
Well, like, it's not like an ideal situation, but like, you know, when working with limited budgets, you know, you can't pay people for like the full like months and stuff of shooting. And like, I feel like we were better this time after doing So Bam also in a week, and so we kind of had it like, run down. And the way we shot it, so we did like the flashback stuff and like the first mask for like a day and a half in January. Then a month later, we came back and did everything from Angel, like the school stuff, like 5 or 6 days. It was intense, but like, yeah, no, it's been like working for us with what we can do.
You also were able to put together an absolutely amazing cast led by Lisa Fanto. How did you go about casting, especially Lisa? Was she someone that you already knew?
So kind of like the Adelaide art scene is very small. And I'd seen her like in some plays when I was younger, and then she did this Screen Australia funded series called Love Guns and Level Ups, which is like this lead in an action rom-com. And I worked a little bit on that as well, and I saw her perform, and she's such an incredible actress, and like had experience kind of like with intense scenes, both emotionally and yeah, she's just great. And it was like a small short film with her a few months before, and then like I was like, she'd be perfect, and I think she's just really phenomenal and great to work with. And I've worked with her a couple times since, but yeah.
And also for the release of this film as well, we mentioned about Umbrella bringing it out here in Australia, but you're also getting some theatre releases in America as well. How does that make you feel?
Like honestly, like a dream come true. Like a lot of like stuff, there's just very still pinch me moments. Like the fact that like Bill Moseley's got a voiceover cameo, the fact that Umbrella, like such a reputable like distributor, picked it up, and like I can walk into a store and like buy it on DVD, and yeah, like America is doing limited theatrical, I think, in LA and New York, which is just so wild that like to me, like on the other side of the world, you can kind of like see my film in a cinema is just like a dream come true.
You mentioned about Bill Moseley there, of course. Being a Rob Zombie fan, that must have meant a lot to you to be able to get Bill to do that. How did that come about for you?
So there was always like that radio like segment in the show, and I kind of wrote it with like him in mind, but I was like, of course I'm never gonna get Bill Moseley. But I was like, you know, what's the worst that can happen? His agent can like not respond. So I emailed her, who was super lovely, and then she like told him about it and pitched him the idea, and then he was down. Just gave him some notes, and he recorded it and sent it back. And honestly, like still, I'm like I grew up on Rob Zombie films. I'm still like a big fan. It's just really incredible that not only he like wanted to do the film, but like he's involved in like a queer trans horror film as well. I think that's really cool for like a genre icon to have done that. So yeah.
Definitely. And how do you feel now that the film's about to come out? Are you excited or are you nervous?
I think I'm excited. Like, you know, when you're with a film for so long, like making it and then, you know, post, and then it takes time for it to come out. Like, I think we handed like all like the deliverables and stuff in like January, and it's now June. So yeah, I'm just excited for people to be able to like watch it, buy it, go to cinema in some places. Yeah.
And Aussie horror fans are so supportive of the industry, and they really, really embrace filmmakers who are making films in the genre. Are you kind of ready for that? Ready for those Aussie fans to embrace you and support your work?
Yeah, I mean, I am just like grateful for anyone who watches my film and for any support I get as a filmmaker. I'm just truly so grateful for.
Awesome. Well, Alice, to finish off the interview, what would you like to say to people out there who are about to sit down and watch the film? Because, of course, we've got people listening here in Australia and also overseas. So some people will be watching it on DVD, some will be watching it on streaming, some will be able to see it in cinemas. What would you like to say to people out there before they sit down to watch Bad Girl Boogey?
I mean, firstly, I hope you enjoy and thank you for taking the time to watch it. I don't know, just like the context, me like being 17 when I made it, just like super no budget, just very like queer and like indie punk horror vibes. I just really hope it's something you enjoy and can appreciate. Yeah.
Definitely. And before I go, I should ask, where to next for you? Have you already started work on your next film?
Yeah, I've had like a couple things underway at the moment. So my third film premiered in the States at a festival I was lucky enough to get flown over to earlier in the year, which is doing some more festivals. It's doing Fantasia next month, which I'm pretty stoked about. And yeah, just always kind of have something on the go.
Awesome. Well, Alice, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show. We hope all of our Australian listeners will go out and grab a copy on June 21st. Thank you so much for chatting to us.
Of course, thank you so much.